"What on earth is this?" Patricia Hawthorne screamed at my newly installed 6-foot wooden gate, her face flushing a deep shade of purple with fury. She stood there trembling, pointing at the gate as if it had personally insulted her family. I took a slow sip of my coffee, fighting back a grin. Little did she know, this gate was no ordinary gate. It was a carefully crafted trap I'd been preparing for 3 months. You see, Patricia was the HOA president, a ruthless tyrant who made my life miserable simply because I dared to grow vegetables on my land. But today, she was about to fall right into my perfect trap. This is the tale of how a humble farmer outwitted a power-hungry dictator. Trust me, you'll want to remember this. By the way, where are you all tuning in from? Drop a comment below. I'm Nathan Brooks, and 3 years ago, I made what seemed like an ideal choice. I bought a house at the far end of Willow Rest Estates, a quiet suburban neighborhood with enough land to finally pursue my dream, a small organic farm. Coming from the city, I thought I'd found paradise. 5 acres of rich soil, friendly neighbors, and peace. I started small tomatoes, lettuce, cucumbers, and sold my produce to local restaurants. Within a year, my little farm was flourishing. Chef Roberto from the Italian restaurant downtown told me my tomatoes reminded him of his grandmother's garden back in Sicily. Life was good, really good. Then, 6 months ago, everything changed. Patricia Hawthorne was elected HOA president. I dealt with difficult people before, but Patricia was on a whole different level. 48 years old, always impeccably dressed in a business suit even on weekends, and carrying a clipboard like it was the launch codes for a missile. She had this irritating pen-tapping habit when angry that could drive anyone mad. Bob Anderson, who sat on the HOA board, told me she'd been middle management at an insurance company before getting laid off. Looks like she decided to turn our neighborhood into her new corporate kingdom. The first sign of trouble arrived on a sunny Tuesday morning. I was tending to my tomato plants when I heard that infuriating pen tapping. Patricia was standing at my property line, her nose crinkled as if she'd just smelled something foul. "Mr. Brooks," she said in a voice cold enough to freeze hell itself, "I've received complaints about odors coming from your operation." I nearly laughed. "You mean the smell of fresh compost?" "That's organic farming, Patricia. It's how vegetables grow." She jotted something on her clipboard, each stroke sharp and aggressive. "Still, it's disturbing the peace of our community. This is a residential area, not an agricultural zone." I tried explaining that I had thoroughly researched zoning laws before starting the farm and that everything was legal, but Patricia wasn't interested in facts, so she was interested in control. "Legal doesn't mean acceptable, Mr. Brooks. We have standards here at Willow Rest Estates." That afternoon, I found the first violation notice in my mailbox, a $500 fine for creating atmospheric pollution harmful to community wellness. I showed it to my neighbor Maria Rodriguez, a retired lawyer who lived 2 houses down with her 7-year-old daughter Sophia. Maria shook her head. "She can't enforce this, Nathan. It's completely baseless." But I saw the concern in her eyes. We both knew Patricia wouldn't stop there. Over the next few weeks, Patricia's inspections became a daily ritual. Every morning at 7:30 sharp, there she was with her clipboard and measuring the distance from my vegetable rows to the property line, photographing my compost bins, even bringing a decibel meter to check the noise from my rototiller. I kept working, trying to ignore her presence, but it felt like a vulture circling overhead. One afternoon, my friend Danny Thompson, the local sheriff, stopped by. We'd been high school classmates, and he wore the exhaustion of someone dealing with too much suburban drama. "Nathan, I've gotten a dozen calls from Patricia this week about your farm," he said. 12. "I've got real crimes to handle, not tomato disputes." He glanced at my plants and added, "Though I've got to admit, those are some damn fine tomatoes. My wife would love some growing tips." Then came the meeting that changed everything. Patricia called an emergency HOA session about the agricultural problem threatening our property values. I knew I had to be there to defend myself. Maria agreed to come along, bringing a stack of state laws protecting agricultural activities. The meeting was held in the community center, a beige box smelling of old coffee and broken dreams. Patricia stood at the front like a general rallying troops. "Ladies and gentlemen, we need to address the commercial farming operation destroying our neighborhood's character. I stood up, my farmer's rough hands gripping the smooth legal documents. It's not commercial, it's a personal garden that happens to supply a few local restaurants. It's fully legal under state law as an educational garden. I even give tours to local schools. Little Sophia raised her hand. I learned how to grow carrots at Mr. Nathan's farm. It was the best field trip ever. A few people smiled, but Patricia's face only grew redder. Children's opinions aren't relevant to property values. Mrs. Rodriguez, please control your daughter. That's when I noticed Maria's expression harden. You don't mess with a mama bear protecting her cub. The meeting ended with Patricia vowing to find a way to force compliance with community standards. As I was leaving, Bob Anderson pulled me aside. Be careful, Nathan. She had 3 coffees before the meeting and was yelling at a photo of her ex-husband. She's not stable right now. I thanked him and headed home, thinking the worst was behind me. I couldn't have been more wrong. The next morning changed everything. I had just signed an exclusive contract with the biggest restaurant in Tona, a deal that would secure the future of my farm. My hands trembled with excitement as I opened the front door. There stood Patricia, that cold, victorious smile playing on her lips, clutching a stack of papers as thick as a phone book. Mr. Brooks, she said, her voice dripping with satisfaction, I've uncovered that your farm violates 47 separate HOA regulations. You have 72 hours to cease all operations or face fines totaling $50,000. She handed me the papers, and I swear I saw genuine delight sparkling in her eyes. This is madness. You can't just invent violations, I protested. Patricia merely tapped her pen against her clipboard, unbothered. Oh, I'm not inventing anything. Subsection 12.3 clearly states no structure shall emit odors detectable beyond property lines. Subsection 18.9 prohibits activities that attract wildlife. I even have photos of bees on your property. Shall I continue? My hands shook as I flipped through the pages. This was no longer a simple complaint, this was a full-blown declaration of war. The 72-hour deadline felt like a ticking time bomb inside my chest. That night, I spent hours poring over Patricia's violation notices, cross-referencing them with the official HOA rulebook. My dining table vanished beneath a sea of papers, empty coffee cups, and mounting frustration. Then, I noticed something peculiar. Patricia had cited rules that didn't exist in our original HOA documents, as she was literally making things up, betting I wouldn't bother checking. Around midnight, a laugh escaped me, not because it was funny, but because I'd uncovered something Patricia hadn't accounted for, a loophole. According to the real HOA rules, agricultural structures were allowed if they served to protect farming activities. My gate certainly qualified. The very next morning, Patricia was back at 7:30 sharp, measuring the distance from my tomato plants to the sidewalk. 2 inches too close. Mr. Brooks, another violation, she declared. I watched her from my kitchen window, sipping coffee and quietly plotting my next move. At around 9 o'clock, Maria knocked on my door, concern written all over her face. Nathan, I've been digging through the HOA's finances. Something strange is going on. $5,000 vanished from the road maintenance fund last month. No receipts, no explanation. This was getting interesting. Do you think Patricia's involved? I asked. Maria nodded slowly. Who else has access to those accounts? Just her and Bob Anderson. And Bob wouldn't steal a paperclip. That afternoon, I received an unexpected email from an encrypted address, a jumble of random letters and numbers. Need more evidence about HOA fund usage. Stay calm. Keep documenting. My heart raced. Who was this? Why were they interested in our suburban drama? I decided to play along, keeping the email to myself for the moment. Meanwhile, Patricia escalated her campaign. She spread whispers among neighbors, suggesting my organic produce wasn't so organic after all. Mrs. Jane from 2 blocks over even asked if my vegetables were safe for her grandchildren. My reputation began to suffer, and Patricia clearly knew exactly what she was doing. 3 days later, Patricia called another emergency home meeting with a single agenda item: a proposed ban on all agricultural activities in Willow Rest Estates. This was my make-or-break moment. I showed up with Maria and a secret weapon: paperwork proving my farm was registered with the state as an educational garden. Under state law, educational gardens were protected from HOA interference. It was priceless to see Patricia's face when I laid out the documents. "There's a broken bar, this has to be fraudulent," she sputtered. "Nobody informed me about any educational garden." Maria stood up, lawyer mode activated. "It's all perfectly legal. Nathan's been hosting school groups for 2 years. In fact, the state agriculture department commended his work last summer." The room erupted into discussion. Several neighbors I'd given free vegetables to spoke in my defense. Patricia's pen tapping escalated to a rapid staccato. "Fine," she spat, "but this doesn't change the other violations of the noise, the smells, the aesthetic damage to our community." That's when little Sophia raised her hand again. "Mrs. Hawthorne, why do you hate vegetables? Don't you want kids to know where their food comes from?" Her innocent question landed like a hammer blow. Even some of Patricia's supporters shifted uncomfortably. The meeting ended without a vote on the bond, a small victory. But Patricia's parting words sent a chill down my spine. "This isn't over, Mr. Brooks. I will find a way to restore proper order in this neighborhood." On my way home, I discovered something that made my blood run cold. A massive dump truck was parked in my driveway, unloading a huge pile of dirt and rocks right at the entrance to my farm. When I confronted the driver, he shrugged. A lady in a suit said this was the right address. Paid cash, no receipt. It took me 3 hours to clear a path just to reach my greenhouse. But the real horror awaited inside. Every single one of my young plants had been sprayed with herbicide. The smell was unmistakable. Someone had methodically destroyed 2 months of hard work. I dropped to my knees, clutching a dead tomato seedling, hands trembling with fury and sorrow. Then my phone buzzed, a text from Patricia. "This is only the beginning. Shut down, or I will destroy everything you love." I stared at those words, feeling something inside me snap. She'd crossed the line. This wasn't about HOA rules anymore, it was personal. I saved the threatening text and added it to my ever-growing evidence file. That night, I made a decision. If Patricia wanted a war, I'd give her one. But I'd fight smart, not dirty. Step 1 was protection. I needed a gate big, solid, and legally bulletproof, not to keep people out, but to record every visitor. I had a strong feeling Patricia wouldn't be able to resist trespassing, and when she did, I'd be ready. That evening, Bob Anderson called me, whispering like he was in a spy thriller. "Nathan, you didn't hear this from me, but Patricia's been talking to her cousin. The guy's some kind of health inspector. She's planning something big." I thanked Bob and hung up, mind racing. A health inspector could shut down my restaurant contracts with a single bad report. I had to move fast. The next morning, I called every environmental testing company I could find. 48 hours and $800 later, I had a full soil analysis, 100% organic, 0 contaminants, cleaner than Patricia's conscience, as I told Maria. But I knew this was just the beginning. Patricia Hawthorne was about to learn that farmers might get their hands dirty. But we're not stupid, and sometimes the best fertilizer for justice is patience. Installing that gate was the smartest move I ever made. 6 feet tall, solid oak, with an electronic lock and security cameras capturing everything in crystal clear HD. The installation crew wrapped up on a Thursday afternoon, and I stood back admiring their work. It was perfectly legal. I triple-checked every regulation and even got a building permit to be extra safe. The gate wasn't just for security, it was bait, and I knew exactly what kind of fish I was trying to catch. "She won't be able to resist," I muttered. Patricia Hawthorne couldn't stand being locked out of anything. Friday morning, 7:30 sharp, I was ready with my coffee, watching from the kitchen window. Patricia's white sedan pulled up. I saw her checking her clipboard, steeling herself for her daily invasion. She walked up to my property linea and froze. The look on her face was priceless. Confusion, then recognition, then pure, undiluted rage. She stood there for a full minute, staring at the gate like it personally insulted her mother. Then came 3 long blasts of her car horn. She stormed out, marching up to the gate. "What the hell is this?" she screamed. "This is unacceptable. I am the HOA. I am the law here." I walked out slowly, sipping my coffee, fighting a smile. "Morning, Patricia. Beautiful day, isn't it?" Her face went from red to purple. "You take this down immediately. This monstrosity violates every aesthetic standard we have." I pulled out my phone, showing her the permit. "Actually, It's completely legal. County approved. HOA compliant. I even matched the neighborhood's color palette. She started kicking the gate out, really kicking it, like a toddler throwing a tantrum. Her designer heel snapped off, and she stumbled. I don't care what your permits say. I need access to inspect your property. No, you don't, I said calmly. You're not a police officer. You're not a city inspector. You're just a neighbor with a clipboard and too much free time. That's when she completely lost it. Patricia pulled out her phone and started a live video on the HOA community page. Everyone needs to see this. Nathan Brooks has built a fortress to hide his illegal activities. This is what happens when we allow degenerates into our community. She was so furious she didn't notice the dog filter was still on her face. Later, Maria showed me the video. Patricia ranting about agricultural terrorism while sporting digital puppy ears and a nose. It went viral in the neighborhood within hours. Comment below if you've ever dealt with someone like this. The video spread through Willow Rest Estates like wildfire in dry grass. Within 2 hours, the HOA community page had over 300 comments, most filled with laughing emojis. Is this our HOA president or an audition for a comedy show? One neighbor wrote, Patricia didn't realize what had happened until her phone started pinging non-stop. When she finally watched the video, seeing those digital puppy ears flopping as she ranted about agricultural terrorism, I heard her scream from 3 houses away. While Patricia was probably plotting my demise that evening, I met someone who would change everything. Sarah Martinez didn't look like Fia, just a woman in casual clothes buying tomatoes at the farmer's market. Nice produce, Mr. Brooks, she said, inspecting a cucumber. Shame about your HOA troubles. There was something in her tone made me lean in closer. I've been following your situation, she said quietly. Patricia Hawthorne has caught our attention for other reasons. Keep documenting everything. We'll be in touch. She slipped me a business card, hidden under a $20 bill, then walked away with her vegetables. Meanwhile, Patricia was recruiting Bob Anderson for something darker. Security footage from down the street showed them meeting in Bob's garage at 11 p.m. Patricia paced back and forth, gesturing wildly, while Bob sat slumped on a paint can, looking miserable. Later, Bob confessed to me that Patricia had threatened to expose his unpermitted shed renovation to code enforcement, a move that could cost him thousands. She owns me, he admitted months later. If I didn't help her get into your property, she'd ruin me financially. That night, they planned the break-in, Patricia drawing diagrams while Bob practiced with bolt cutters. Neither of them knew Sarah Martinez was already building a case that would bring them both down. But Patricia wasn't done yet. Within an hour, she'd sent me a formal violation notice for an unauthorized structure impeding community oversight. The fine? $1,000. I responded by sending her technical drawings proving the gate complied with every regulation. Still, I knew she wouldn't back down easily. That night, I left the gate slightly ajar a few times, watching the security cameras. Like clockwork, at 2 a.m., Patricia's sedan crept up my driveway with headlights off. She'd sent Bob to do her dirty work, but she sat in the car supervising, clearly visible on the infrared camera. Bob approached the gate, bolt cutters in hand, looking utterly miserable. I almost felt sorry for him. He cut through the lock while Patricia barked instructions from the car window. I let it happen, recording everything. This wasn't just trespassing anymore, this was breaking and entering. Criminal charges. I downloaded the video and sent it to my encrypted contact with the note, evidence number 23B&E. The response came quickly. Perfect. Keep gathering evidence. The net is almost ready. The next morning, I played dumb when I found my broken lock. I called Danny Thompson to file a police report, showed him the damage but not the video. Not yet, Danny sighed, eyeing the cut lock. Let me guess, Patricia? I shrugged. Can't imagine who else would care that much about my vegetables. He made some notes, then looked at me seriously. Keep those cameras rolling, Nathan. I have a feeling this is going to get worse before it gets better. And hey, I can't officially tell you these, but maybe double check your insurance is up to date. Message received loud and clear. That afternoon, Patricia showed up with what she called her HOA enforcement team, really just 3 other board members she'd bullied into coming. Mr. Brooks, she announced, you have 24 hours to remove this gate or face serious consequences. I leaned against my illegal gate, trying to look relaxed. You can give me 24 years, Patricia. This gate is 100% legal. She pulled out a measuring tape. We'll see about that. Robert, measure from the sidewalk. Helen, check if it blocks the sideline from the street. Margaret, document everything. Poor Bob Anderson looked like he wanted to disappear into the ground. As they measured and photographed, I noticed Patricia kept glancing at the farmland behind the gate like a vampire eyeing a neck. She wanted in so badly it was eating her alive. You know what, Patricia? I said suddenly. Why don't you all come in and see the farm? I've got nothing to hide. Her eyes lit up like Christmas morning. Finally, some cooperation. Yes, we need to inspect for further violations immediately. But I held up a hand. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., bring whoever you want. I'll give you the grand tour. She agreed, eagerly, already planning her next attack. That night, I prepared carefully, cleaned the farm, organized my records, made a few important phone calls. Patricia thought she was walking into my territory to destroy me. She had no idea she was walking into a carefully laid trap. Before bed, I found a video file on my computer I hadn't put there. It showed Patricia meeting someone in a parking garage and money changing hands. Make sure Brooks loses everything, Patricia said in the recording. I'll pay whatever it takes. The man turned toward the camera. It was the city health inspector. My blood ran cold, then burned hot with anger. She was trying to destroy my livelihood through official channels, but she'd made a critical mistake. Someone else was watching her, too, and tomorrow, all her schemes would come crashing down. I sent the video to my mysterious contact. They're planning something big tomorrow at 10 a.m. Be ready. The response was immediate. We'll be there. Let her walk right into it. The security system I installed was worth every penny. 24 cameras covering every angle, all streaming to my phone and backing up to the cloud. Within a week, I had enough footage to start my own reality show, The Patricia Hawthorne Destruction Hour. The morning after the lock-cutting incident, I found my truck tires slashed of 4 clean cuts. Definitely deliberate. Instead of losing my temper, I stood there for 5 long seconds staring at the damage. I picked up a piece of the blade that had broken off the evidence. My hands were steady, but inside, I was seething. This wasn't just about regulations anymore. This was about destroying my life. I documented everything and kept working, but Patricia had shifted into overdrive. Every single day brought a fresh violation notice: a grass a 1/4 inch too tall, a $500 fine, gate color not matching the approved palette shade number 47, $300 fine, existence of beneficial insects on agricultural property, $200 fine. I paid every one of them, keeping careful copies of each absurd charge. Maria couldn't believe the growing stack. Nathan, this is harassment. You need to fight back. I just smiled. I am fighting back, just not the way she expects. Then Patricia played her nastiest card yet. She started spreading rumors that my farm used toxic chemicals. I heard he sprays at night so no one sees. She told anyone who'd listen, those vegetables are probably poisoning our children. Within days, I got a call from Roberto's restaurant. They were suspending our contract pending investigation. 2 more restaurants followed suit. My income dropped 60% overnight. I had to sell my backup truck just to cover the mortgage. But the worst part was how it affected others. Little Sophia came to my gate one afternoon, tears streaming down her face. Mr. Nathan, why can't we have your tomatoes anymore? Mommy says Mrs. Hawthorne won't let you sell them. That's when I made a crucial mistake. Patricia sent me another email listing 17 new violations and I snapped. I wrote back, "You're a pathetic, power-hungry bully who's destroying this community. Everyone sees through your act." The moment I hit send, I regretted it. I'd shown weakness. Given her ammunition. Sure enough, she forwarded my response to the entire home mailing list with the subject line, "Unstable farmer threatens HOA president." I wanted to scream. Instead, I did something more productive. I made calls to every testing company in 3 states. 48 hours later, I had results. My soil was cleaner than organic standards required, 100% organic, cleaner than her conscience. I told Maria, a small victory. The biggest restaurant in town not only refused to cancel our contract, they doubled their order. "We trust you, Nathan," the owner said. "Besides, My wife is on that HOA page. She saw the video with the dog filter. Patricia's lost all credibility. But Patricia was spiraling into full madness. Bob Anderson secretly told me she'd been standing in front of her bathroom mirror practicing angry speeches. She broke 3 coffee cups yesterday, he whispered during a chance encounter at the grocery store. She kept screaming at a photo of her ex-husband. Nathan, I'm scared of what she might do, Bob said. His fear was justified. That week, a woman in a black suit showed up at my farm, just browsing, she said. But she wasn't looking at vegetables. She was taking photos of my filing cabinet and asking strange questions about HOA finances. Funny thing about embezzlement, she said casually, people think they're clever moving money around, but there's always a trail. I played dumb, but inside my heart was racing. This was the FBI. Later, Maria discovered something huge. Patricia had been forging signatures on home meeting minutes, approving expenditures that never went to a vote. She's been stealing. Nathan, look at this. The evidence was damning. A $30,000 siphoned off over 6 months. We met the federal agent, Sarah Martinez, at a coffee shop downtown. Turns out she'd been buying vegetables from me for a year, noticed Patricia's behavior, and started investigating. We need more, Sarah said, sliding a USB drive across the table. Keep documenting everything. When she makes her big move, we'll be ready. Maria looked worried. What big move? Sarah smiled grimly. People like Patricia always overreach. She'll try something dramatic to finish Nathan off. That's when we catch her. I've been watching Patricia for 6 months, Sarah explained, stirring her coffee. It started when I was buying vegetables from you. I noticed she was paying cash for everything, which seemed odd for someone who documents every penny of HOA business. She pulled out a tablet showing bank records that made my jaw drop. She'd been siphoning money since her first week as president. Small amounts at first, 50 here, 100 there. Classic embezzlement escalation. I stared at the numbers, feeling both vindicated and sick. This wasn't just about power. Patricia was a common thief. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in my greenhouse among the dying plants, counting bills by lamplight. $43 in my wallet, $800 in checking, maybe $1,200 in savings if I was lucky. Thea, the mortgage payment was due in 2 weeks at $2,400. I didn't have it. My hands shook as I did the math over and over, hoping for a different outcome. For a moment, just one moment, I thought about giving up, selling the farm, moving somewhere Patricia couldn't reach me. Then I looked at the photo on my phone. Sophia holding her first successful tomato plant, grinning like she'd just won the lottery number. I wouldn't let Patricia steal that joy from the kids who'd come after. The next morning brought fresh hell. From my kitchen, I listened as Patricia made call after call to restaurant owners. I'm calling from Willowist Estates Legal Department, she said, voice dripping with false authority. Any establishment purchasing from Brooks Organic Farm faces immediate litigation for supporting health code violations. I wanted to grab the phone and scream the truth, but Sarah had warned me to let Patricia dig her own grave. By noon, my phone buzzed with 12 messages from panicked restaurant owners. Each cancellation felt like a physical blow, but I documented every single one. The psychological pressure was crushing. I lost weight, my hands trembled while counting bills, and I started jumping at shadows. One night, I sat alone in my dark greenhouse, surrounded by dying plants I couldn't afford to replace. Was this worth it? Should I just give up and leave? Then I remembered Sophia's tears, Roberto's trust, all the people Patricia had bullied over the years. Number. I wouldn't let her win. Around midnight, my phone rang. Patricia's voice was sickeningly sweet. Tomorrow you'll have to give up, farmer boy. I stayed silent, recording everything. Check your email, she continued. My blood ran cold as I read her message. She'd sent cease and desist letters to every restaurant within 50 miles. Any establishment purchasing from Brooks Organic Farm will face immediate legal action from the HOA's law firm. My phone exploded with calls. 5 restaurants canceled contracts within 5 minutes. I'm sorry, Nathan, one owner said. I can't afford a legal battle. Patricia's laughter echoed through the phone. By morning, you'll have 0 customers. Good luck paying that mortgage. She hung up, leaving me staring at my rapidly empty order book. This was Ida, her masterstroke. Without customers, I'd lose the farm within months. But Patricia made one crucial mistake. She put her threat in writing, used HOA resources for a personal vendetta. Sarah Martinez would be very interested in this email. I forwarded everything to her with shaking hands. The response was quick. Perfect, she just committed federal wire fraud. Get ready for tomorrow. Operation Gatekeeper is a go. I didn't sleep that night. I sat watching the sunrise over my battered farm, knowing that in a few hours everything would change. 10 a.m. came faster than expected. I stood at my gate, watching Patricia's white sedan lead a convoy of 3 other cars up my driveway. She'd brought what she called an environmental inspection team. They're really just her country club friends, all dressed in matching polo shirts. Danny Thompson was already at the farm, supposedly checking on my vandalism report. This is going to be quite a show, he muttered, sipping coffee from a thermos. You sure about this, Nathan? I nodded. My hands were surprisingly steady. She wants in. Let her in. All the way in. Patricia emerged from her car like a general arriving at conquered territory. Mr. Brooks, we're here for the promised inspection. I trust you won't impede official HOA business. Wouldn't dream of it, I said, swinging the gate wide open. Please come right in, all of you. Would you like some fresh cucumber water? Just picked this morning. Patricia's eyes narrowed, suspicious of my hospitality, but her desire to find violations overruled her caution. She marched through the gate, clipboard at the ready, her polo-clad army following behind. This is going to be quite a show, Danny said again, louder this time. Patricia shot him a look. Sheriff Thompson, I didn't expect to see you here. This is a civil matter. Danny smiled. Oh, I'm just here about the vandalism. Terrible thing. People destroying private property, breaking and entering, especially if that's a felony. You know. Patricia's pace faltered for a moment, but she quickly recovered. We're here to document environmental violations, she said. I have reports of toxic chemical usage, improper waste disposal, and agricultural runoff contaminating our groundwater. She pulled out a thick folder. I've brought EPA guidelines, state health codes. She stopped mid-sentence as a woman in a black suit stepped out from behind my greenhouse. Please continue, the woman said, pulling out a badge. Special Agent Sarah Martinez, FBI. We're very interested in your environmental concerns, Mrs. Hawthorne. The color drained from Patricia's face like someone had pulled the plug. FBI? What? Why is the FBI at a vegetable farm? Oh, we're not here about vegetables, Sarah said pleasantly. We're investigating the systematic embezzlement of HOA funds, wire fraud, and racketeering. Mr. Brooks has been helping us for months. Isn't that right, Nathan? I nodded, trying not to smile. Every email, every threat, every forged document, all recorded, all submitted as evidence. Patricia's clipboard clattered to the ground, and her polo-shirted friends started backing toward the gate, but 2 more agents appeared, blocking their exit. This is entrapment, Patricia shrieked. He set me up. That gate was bait. Sarah shrugged. Nobody forced you to break in at 2 a.m. Nobody made you steal $30,000 from your neighbors. And certainly, nobody forced you to threaten restaurant owners across state lines. That last one, Sarah said, voice cold. That's federal jurisdiction. I pulled out my phone and showed Patricia the screen. 12 videos of her trespassing, 15 emails threatening my business, bank records proving HOA funds transferred to her personal account. Oh. And that health inspector you tried to bribe? He's been wearing a wire for weeks. Patricia lunged at me, but Danny stepped between us. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to calm down. She spun toward her friends. Tell them this is all lies. But they were already distancing themselves literally and figuratively. One woman peeled off her polo shirt, revealing a plain blouse underneath. I'm just a neighbor, officers, she said quietly. We were checking for code violations. Here's the best part, Patricia, I said, finally allowing myself a smile. This gate? It was never about keeping you out. It was about making you desperate to get in. Every time you trespassed, every law you broke, you did it because you couldn't stand being locked out. You walked right into this trap because your need to control everything made you predictable. Patricia's face shifted through a rainbow of emotions: rage, disbelief, fear, and finally, desperate cunning. You have no real proof, she spat. "It's your word against mine. I'm a respected community leader." Sarah pulled out a tablet and hit play. Patricia's voice filled the air. "Make sure Brooks loses everything. I'll pay whatever it takes." The health inspector's face was clearly visible as he accepted an envelope of cash. "That's bribery of a public official," Sarah said. "Add another 5 years to the sentence." Patricia made one last desperate plea. "Fine. Yes, I bent some rules, but it was for the good of the community. This man is destroying our property values with his broken bar, his farm." She spat the last word like it was a curse. I couldn't help but laugh. "Actually, Patricia, property values have increased 12% since I started the farm. Turns out people like living near fresh, local food." Sarah nodded to the other agents. "I think we've heard enough." As they moved toward Patricia, she pulled out her phone, frantically typing. "You think you've won? I've already filed an emergency injunction. Your farm is shut down pending investigation." She waved the phone triumphantly, showing an email from the courthouse. My heart sank. Even if she went to jail, a legal battle could drag on for months. I might still lose everything. But Danny leaned over, reading the email carefully, then started laughing. "Patricia, you might want to read that more carefully. You filed an injunction against Brooks Organic Farm LLC. Nathan's farm is registered as Willowcrest Educational Gardens. You shut down a business that doesn't exist." The look on Patricia's face was priceless, a pure, unbridled defeat. As the handcuffs clicked around her wrists, she turned to me one last time. "This isn't over. I'll get the best lawyers. I'll sue you for everything." But her voice lacked conviction. She knew she'd lost. "You have the right to remain silent," Danny began. "And I swear," there was joy in his voice, "anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." As they led her away, he added with a small smile, "This gate is completely legal, by the way, and so is arresting you." The remaining polo shirts scattered like startled chickens, leaving me standing in my farm with Sarah and Danny. 3 months of investigation, Sarah said, shaking my hand. "You did good, Nathan. Your patience and documentation made this case airtight." I looked around at my damaged but still standing farm. "What happens now?" Sarah smiled. "Now, we contact all those restaurants, let them know the legal threats are void. We return the stolen money to the HOA, and you get back to growing vegetables." A polo shirt brigade scattered like roaches when the lights came on. "I don't even know this woman," one shouted, literally running to her car. Another threw her clipboard at Patricia's feet. "You said this was legitimate HOA business." "I'm calling my lawyer." Bob Anderson stood frozen for a moment, then something shifted on his face, a relief mixed with shame. "I'm sorry, Nathan," he said quietly. "She made me cut your lock, made me slash your tires. I kept recordings of everything she asked me to do. I'll testify. I'll tell them everything." By now, neighbors were streaming out of their houses, drawn by the police cars and commotion. Mrs. Jane, from 2 blocks over, started clapping slowly. "It's about time," she called out. Others joined in, and not quite applause, but more a recognition that a long nightmare was finally ending. Old Mr. Kowalski hobbled over with his cane. "She fined me $300 for my bird feeder," he announced to anyone listening. Said birds were unauthorized wildlife. The FBI agents took notes as more neighbors approached with their stories. I stood there, surrounded by damaged plants and gathering neighbors, feeling something I hadn't in months, a hope. The weight that had been crushing my chest finally lifted. Sarah Martinez walked over, her professional mask slipping to reveal genuine satisfaction. 3 months of investigation, dozens of hours of surveillance, and she walked right into it. "Exactly as you predicted." That gate really was perfect bait. As the law enforcement vehicles drove away with Patricia, I stood by my gate at the clever, lawful barrier that had saved my farm. In the distance, I could hear neighbors stepping out of their homes, drawn by the commotion. By morning, everyone would know what had happened. The tyrant had fallen, brought down not by force, but by her own desperate need to control. I picked up her discarded clipboard, scanning the list of planned violations. Number 47 made me laugh out loud. Excessive happiness on agricultural property. For the first time in months, I truly laughed. Then I went to water my tomatoes. They'd been waiting long enough. News of Patricia's arrest spread through Willowcrest Estates like fertilizer on spring grass. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Neighbors who had been too afraid to speak before now shared their own horror stories. Patricia fined the Johnsons for the wrong shade of beige on their mailbox. She threatened to sue old Mr. Kowalski for his bird feeder, claiming it attracted unauthorized wildlife. Every story started the same way. I thought I was the only one. That night, the emergency home meeting was packed, a standing room only. People who hadn't shown up in years came, eager to see the aftermath. Bob Anderson took the podium, looking like a man released from chains. "Folks, I have a confession," he said. "I helped Patricia. She had dirt on me, an old permit violation for my shed. I was terrified of losing my retirement and getting fined, but staying silent made me complicit." His daughter's words echoed in the room. Silence in the face of injustice is its own crime. The crowd murmured in understanding. Maria Rodriguez stepped up next, lawyer mode fully engaged. "We need to elect an interim president and immediately audit all HOA finances." She paused to let it sink in. Initial investigations show Patricia stole $30,000 over 6 months. "That's our money meant for roads, for community improvements." Voices rose in anger. Sarah Martinez, still in her FBI blazer, raised a hand for silence. She slammed a thick folder on the podium. "She stole $30,000. Here's the proof. Every forged check, every fake invoice, every penny traced." The room fell silent, then erupted again. Through it all, I sat quietly in the back, absorbing everything. The vote for interim president was unanimous. Maria Rodriguez would lead until new elections. Her first act: all fines issued in the past 6 months were void pending review. She looked at me and said, "Nathan, the HOA formally apologizes for the harassment you endured. Your farm is an asset to this community." The applause was overwhelming. Neighbors I barely knew came over, patting my back, shaking my hand, apologizing for not standing up sooner. Danny Thompson found me in the crowd. "Told you to keep those cameras rolling." I gotta admit, didn't see the FBI angle coming. You were playing chess while Patricia was playing checkers. 6 months later, I sat in a federal courthouse watching Patricia's trial. She looked diminished, her power suit replaced with conservative court clothes. Her lawyer threw every excuse at the jury: divorce stress, pressure from homeowners, even claims I manipulated her to commit crimes. But the evidence was damning. 12 videos of trespassing and vandalism, bank records showing theft, bribery of a health inspector, wire fraud across state lines. When I took the stand, I laid out the facts like a business report. She destroyed $2,000 worth of seedlings, cost me $15,000 in lost contracts, and tried to ruin my livelihood just because I grew vegetables. The prosecutor asked if I had anything to add. I thought a moment, then said, "Patricia Hawthorne forgot one thing. Farmers are patient. We plant seeds and wait. We watch the weather and adapt, and eventually, every harvest comes due." The verdict was quick: guilty on all 23 counts. 5 years in federal prison, $50,000 restitution, and a lifetime ban from any HOA position. As they led her away, she screamed about appeals and injustice, but no one listened. Outside the courthouse, Roberto from the Italian restaurant waited with a bottle of champagne. "Nathan, we're doubling our order. Customers keep asking for the veggies that took down a dictator." "You're famous." I laughed. "I just wanted to grow tomatoes and peas." Maria appeared with Sophia, who ran up and hugged my legs. "Mr. Nathan, Mom says we can have farm day every month now. Can I be your assistant teacher?" And that's exactly what we did. The farm came back stronger than ever. I hired 3 local teens eager to learn organic farming. Farm day became a community tradition, with kids discovering where food really comes from and adults rediscovering the joy of dirt under their nails. Home meetings turned from punitive to productive. Maria led with transparency and common sense, posting all financial records online. The stolen money was recovered and used to build a community garden open to everyone. They named it the Willowcrest Educational Garden, which made me smile every time I passed the sign. Danny Thompson became my best customer and worst gardening student. "I can face down criminals," he joked, "but these aphids are killing me." "You need ladybugs?" I told him for the 100th time. "They're nature's pest control." He looked skeptical. You're saying the solution to bugs is more bugs? But he tried Ita, and when his tomatoes finally ripened, he was prouder than a new parent. I grew Thessie from seed. Can you believe it? The gate remained always open now. It stood as a symbol. Boundaries matter, but so do openness and trust. The cameras still recorded, but mostly they captured kids planting seeds and neighbors sharing gardening tips. 6 months after the trial, I received a letter from a federal correctional facility. Patricia's handwriting was smaller, humbler. Dear Mr. Brooks, I've been attending anger management classes. They helped me understand why I became so controlling. I'm sorry for what I did to you and the community. P.S. Could you possibly send some tomatoes? The food here is terrible. I stared at the letter a long time, then went to my greenhouse. I picked the best cherry tomatoes I could find, packed them with growing instructions, and added a note at the bottom. Even the hardest soil can become fertile with patience and care. The farm thrived, the community thrived, and the gate, it stood open, welcoming anyone who wanted to grow, to learn, and to be part of something good. Every time I looked at it, I was reminded, sometimes the best trap is one that catches a person in their own web of hatred, and sometimes the best revenge is simply living well, growing good food and building a community stronger than any HOA president's power trip. The morning sun caught the gate just right, and I smiled. Patricia was wrong about property values. Since her arrest, 3 young families had moved into Willow Crest Estates, drawn by the famous educational farm. Watching Sophia carefully water the children's garden, teaching younger kids what I'd taught her, I realized something. Patricia tried to build walls, but all she did was help us plant deeper roots. In the end, roots always win. They break through concrete, find water in drought, and with time, can move mountains, or at least one very stubborn HOA president. 1 year later, a USDA official toured our farm as part of their community agriculture program. This is exactly what we hope to see, she said, watching kids plant seeds during our weekly education session. A farm that survived adversity and strengthened its community. Willow Crest Estates had become a model, and HOA that learned from its mistakes. Property values didn't just recover, they soared 20%. Families sought out our neighborhood for its community garden and transparent governance. I was invited to speak at the National Homeowners Alliance about standing up to HOA tyranny. The room was packed with people who had faced their own patricias. Document everything, I told them. Build allies, know your rights. And remember, bullies rely on your silence and isolation. Break both, and they lose their power. The standing ovation felt surreal. Me, a simple farmer who just wanted to grow tomatoes, had become a suburban folk hero. But the real victory was quieter. Every morning, I saw neighbors in the community garden sharing tools and advice, kids proud of their vegetable plots. The gate still stood, always open, with a new sign, Willow Crest Educational Garden, to growing food, growing community. Sometimes, I catch myself staring at it, remembering the day Patricia lost her mind over 6 feet of wood. I'll never forget that day, but I'll cherish even more the day our community found itself. Mr. Nathan, the tomatoes are ready, Sophia called. I walked over to help harvest, thinking of Patricia reading my growing instructions in her cell. Maybe, just maybe, she could learn what I've known all along. Borders aren't just about keeping people out, they're about knowing where you end and others begin. And sometimes, the strongest fences are built from respect, not fear.